Okay, now we turn Majora Carter, our green friend from the Bronx.
From the boogie
It's your
down.
turn.
There we go. Hey. Always interesting to follow Jeffrey Sachs. But especially when I started with has to be a confession to you all. And in this age, where things are just so crazy for everybody, and we've seen it in the political system as well, I think I need to be clear with you all that I actually have something in common with the Tea Party. Oh. I know, and I'm like 2 seats away from Jody. It's like, but just hold that thought. And no, I do not think that our president needed to show his birth certificate in order to be considered our president. That's not it, I promise. What it is that I too believe we should have a smaller government. How we can do that is where I think I might differ from many folks within the Tea Party. I believe we can do that by creating jobs in green infrastructure for our most expensive citizens. Now, who, pray tell, are our most expensive citizens? They are the folks that are generationally impoverished. They're the people that are going in and out of our criminal justice system. They are folks that are coming back from our oil wars. They are the people who traditionally actually use, or because they need them, a disproportionate amount of our nation's social service dollars. They tend to self-medicate with pharmaceuticals or illegal drugs. Their home lives have a tendency to be worse. I mean, there's a higher rate of domestic violence, in many of their homes. Their kids do more poorly in school, which comes at a whole other social cost as well. So when we think about those folks and the fact that they've actually been let down for, in some cases, decades by our education system that doesn't necessarily prepare them, by an economy that leaves them to the side, creating jobs for them, in particular in green infrastructure, is the thing that I see as a way to support them. And so what's green infrastructure? Whether or not you believe in climate change or not, we're watching the impact of our climate changing. If any of you listened to the news this morning, what's going on around the Mississippi River swelling. It makes perfect sense why next to Social Security, the next highest federal insurance cost that we have is flood insurance. That's going to go up even further. We're watching the climate change. We're seeing people being left down. We need to recognize that as we think about adapting to the climate as it changes, if we can actually get people involved in climate adaptation strategies, if we can get them involved in restoring our wetlands, in improving urban forestry, in building out, cleaning up contaminated lands, and just preparing ourselves for what we know is to come. The world is already crowded, it's going to get more crowded, and it's going to get hotter. If we can train people to do the type of work that actually reduces stormwater management bills, that improves air quality, that also that actually lowers utility and energy costs because you're actually creating a vegetative surface that naturally cools our air, reducing our costs. All of those type of things can be done by real people, creating accessible jobs in ways that care for the planet, that we also know are incredibly cost effective. We've got tons of research out there that shows when you use nature, green infrastructure, as a way to clean and heal the planet, to manage its stormwater, to clean its air, then it's a cost-effective way to do all those things. And then there's also tons of research out there that shows that when people, especially those that are traumatized by the effects of poverty, being in and out of our criminal justice system, and veterans, They go out to serve our country. And according to the Veterans Administration right now, we lose 18 vets a day to suicide. That is more than the men and women that are actually fighting the wars. We teach them how to kill. We teach them how to do that really well, but we don't give them the courtesy to come back home and live. And giving people opportunities to become gainful members of society, to do the accessible jobs that allow our planet to heal, that allow them to heal, to reduce their stress levels, to actually put money in their pocket so that they're not tax burdens anymore, but they actually become a part of our tax base. That's the kind of America that I want to live in. And this isn't about finding new money. We're already wasting huge amounts of money. We have a system that by design was meant to keep people poor. We've actively worked to destroy our middle class. We outsource everything, including pollution, to other countries. And we still haven't taken care of what's here. We have a tremendous opportunity, given where we are right now, to know that the world is getting hotter and more crowded, to rethink and maybe even go back a little bit and look at the way nature has taken care of itself before we decided to, stick our big foots into this. And do it in a way that actually provides much of the services that we need in ways that support people, that allow us to grow in a way that just says, I see your humanity. That I see us as human beings that are part of this world. We're not here to destroy it. We're not here to literally, strong arm it. We're here to live in a way that provides the earth and us with a level of security that reminds us that we're a part of something, but we're not there to control it. We are a nation, even though we don't act like it right now, we are a nation of producers, not just consumers. And the ability for us to remember that we can produce jobs that provide the services that we need is something that is not that far off from what many of us like to think right now. We can do this if we really recognize that we have an opportunity to support people and support our planet in ways that impact both of them. Thanks.
Thank you, Majora. Totally agreed. So now we turn to our youth representative, Maurice Bernard. Maurice, your turn. And you.
Good afternoon. First of all, I'd like to just thank everybody for having this opportunity to be here with you all, my fellow panelists, to speak. I guess I'll start by saying I speak of my job. I work here in the city of Newark with the Greater Newark Conservancy. And what we do, we basically go around the city. We help in beautification. We help in cleaning it, in its cleanliness. We take vacant lots and we turn them into works of art. We turn them into gardens. We work with glass roots. They also help add decorative things to the city to make it beautiful. I believe that we all need to take pride in our city and our surroundings as people all over the world. And we should value what we have here that's right here in front of us, all of us. As we said, we're all here on this planet together. We all breathe the same air, drink the same water. So we need to learn how to come together and come together for a common purpose to better our planet and make it a better place. Because we spend so much time trying to destroy each other, trying to harm one another instead of coming together to really uplift each other when we need it the most. So much is controlled. Why is so much violence, so much fighting? Because I see money as a root to every evil on the planet. Money controls so much of what goes on that's all we think about. I know my classmates, I'm a high school student, the classmates I go with now, all they worry about is I need to graduate, make a job, get a job. That's all they want, need a job. Why? For money. They don't understand how to that there's more to life than just going to work. I believe we need to start like with youth, as myself, and as younger children. Also at my job, I work with children as young as 5. We started teaching them about environmental issues. After we've gone through workshops ourselves, we teach them how to like value this planet. We try to give them aspirations to want to do better for this planet. Because at the end of the day, when everything is when we run out of our resources, like there is no money that can buy what we don't have. So we need to make the best out of what is left. As we heard, the population is increasing, and our resources are just dwindling down. So as people, I believe like it's so much based upon unity. We need more unity in our rich communities, in our poverty communities, and all our nations around this planet, young and old. It's all needs to come together. Peace. Yes, I'm young. I'm not a man of many words, so I'll say a few more things. Just like I said, as I see, like, besides the money and besides just all the problems that we're facing, I believe, like, I really have a strong belief in the community and the children, like the young people of my age, and it's just so much needs to, like, we really need to start in education. They need to learn the value and understand what's really going on in the world, because if they don't understand, nobody is telling them or guiding them correctly on how we can fix the problems that we've put ourselves in, because we're in, like, the predicament that we're in is affecting everyone on the planet. Everyone is going to be affected by the decisions that we make today and the decisions that the youth will make tomorrow ultimately. So we need to gear them to make the best decisions for us later in the future and for themselves. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you very much. The wisdom of our young people. Thank you, Maurice. And now we turn to Marianne Williamson. Come on.
Thank you.
There you go.
Thank you. First of all, I thank you, Bob, and everyone here for the opportunity to participate. It's an honor. The beginning of the environmental crisis on the planet today was in many ways the burning of the so-called witches during the Inquisition. That phenomenon was an effort by the early church to eradicate the pagan culture. The passionate, free-thinking women, the pagans of that time, were, among other things, those who kept aloft in the consciousness of the Western human being a sense of sacred connection and partnership with the rocks and with the sky and with the earth and with the waters. So part of the reason this was such a systematic effort, one of the reasons it was such a systematic effort to destroy these women, was because as long as they held aloft in the consciousness of the Western mind a sense of sacred responsibility towards and connection to nature, then the early church could not do one of the main things it was setting out to do. And that was to introduce as a dominant thought form the idea that God had given man dominance over nature. And without that shift, without the ability of the early church to then introduce into the consciousness of the Western thinker that we have the right to dominate nature, not only would that not have been allowed for the unfolding of the Industrial Revolution in England, then in the United States, throughout the Western world, and ultimately now, as Jeffrey Sachs was saying, throughout the world. And this also had the profoundly toxic effect, not only of saying, of presenting permission to humanity to feel that it had the right to dominate nature, but there's a whole host of dominator models, that men have the right to dominate women, that the rich have the right to dominate the poor, etc. So we see what all of this has taken us to. And I think that if we are looking at the world today, whether it's the horror of seeing a mountaintop that has been completely deforested, or seeing that 17,000 children a day are dying of hunger, knowing that the bottom billion, about which Jeffrey Sachs speaks so brilliantly and eloquently, the billion people on the planet who live on $1.25 and less a day, the billion above them who live on $2 and less a day. If you're looking at what has come about on this planet and you're not heartbroken, you're not shattered, you're not horrified, then you're not looking. But at the same time, if we're talking about nonviolence, which is the art of so intersecting a sense of the spiritual power within every man, woman, and child with the powerful effectiveness of social and political activism in the marriage of those two, there is this marriage of the ability to be horrified, the ability to be heartbroken, the ability to recognize and to cry about, something that you don't do from the neck up, to really allow your heart to break. Married to, what is the connection of that to the realization that on a political and social and spiritual level, even though it's also true that if you look at what is, it's heartbreaking. From a spiritual perspective, if you look at what is possible through the grace of something in us but not of us, honey, it is so exciting about what is just about to come down. And it is the marriage of those two. So on one hand, as Gandhi said, and one of the reasons I love Amnesty International as a political organization, this idea of bearing witness to the suffering of someone. This is part of the satyagraha that Gandhi spoke of, the soul force, which allows us, or in the Christian tradition that Jesus said to the disciples before the crucifixion in the Garden of Gethsemane, do not go to sleep in the hour of my agony. So on one hand, we do not allow ourselves to go into apathy. We do not allow ourselves to go into anger. We do not allow ourselves to go into cynicism. We look at what's going on, but we don't dwell on it. We don't dwell and go into cynicism or anger because there is work to do. And in that work to be done, we stand on the work that has to be done. Now, this is where it's extremely important that we not allow some half-baked understanding of what spirituality is make us think that it's somehow negative to name what's going on this planet, as Jeffrey Sachs said as well. As long as you have the absence of public financing of American political campaigns, as long as you have corporations with the rights of individuals here in the United States, as long as you have one major political party that says, it's really sad about all that suffering on the planet, but it's not government's problem to address that, and then another major political party that says, yes, it's sad about all that suffering, let's do what we can to address that suffering, but let's not challenge the underlying forces that make all that suffering inevitable, then that means we have a job to do. Because Gandhi did not name British imperialism. Martin Luther King Jr. did not name the oppressive and unjust system of white racism and white supremacy in the United States. So let's not keep our peace talk too soft. Let's not keep our peace talk too sweet. If we want to have a real conversation about peace, we can talk all we want about how nice it is to help men coming out of prison. We also have to talk about the fact that the U.S. prison system is the largest urban industry in the United States. We can talk all we want. We can talk all we want about getting rid of nuclear bombs, but as this gentleman here certainly knows, the gargantuan multi-billion-dollar industry of the nuclear industry and its effect on two political parties which actually have them bought and sold, we must name this. Not in anger, but in fierceness. Not in anger, but in fierceness. And American women need to take a cue from our African sisters, et cetera, who are not afraid to be fierce. They're not as afraid, an Iranian woman and an African woman, they seem not as afraid as the American woman of being called a little too much, like we're a little too intense. As I said earlier in the day, does a woman during a multiple orgasm say, am I a little bit too intense for you, honey? We need to be a little bit more intense, not out of anger, but out of the colors. And in every advanced mammalian species that survives and thrives, one absolute anthropological common characteristic is the behavior of the adult female of that species when she senses a threat to her cubs, whether it's the lioness or the tigress or the mama bear. Even the adult hyenas, the female adult hyenas, encircle the baby hyenas while they're feeding and will not let the adult males anywhere near the food until the babies have been fed. Surely the women of America could do better than the hyenas. And that is the job of the woman everywhere on this planet, because the relative complacency in terms of the behavioral patterns of the adult female of the human race right now, our relative complacency in front of the disadvantaged children of this world who have no economic leverage, for whom, as long as economic rather than humanitarian principles order human civilization, will always go hungry, will always go uneducated, will always be harmed. As long as that is the case, as long as the adult female of our species is not yet willing to say, no more, we're not angry, but this shit stops now. For that point, until we get to that point, then I'm afraid that we're walking towards our own demise, because we are walking in a direction which means a species is not planning to survive. But the good news, as I see it here in Newark, I see it in California, I see it in France, I see it in Dubai, I see it in the Middle East, and I see it in Africa, and I see it everywhere. It is rising up from no one particular ethnicity, not one particular sex or sexuality, not one particular nationality. It is rising up from deep inside us. And yes, the Dalai Lama says it, but yes, there are people all over the world who says it. And what's most important is that you're saying it, and you're saying it, and you're saying it, and I'm saying it, and we're all feeling it. And it's not like the 60s, where the soloists were the only ones holding up the vision of what's possible. If it's only the soloists, they can shoot the soloists, but they cannot shoot a song. It's time for all of us to start singing, and what a beautiful song we have here today. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Marianne.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Yes, Marianne. Wonderful. Now we turn to Anthony McMillan.
I don't smoke and I need a cigarette. You know? It's pretty good. But I'm trying to figure out how I got on this panel. I'm assuming it has a lot to do with my professional career, and however that happened, this has to be the highlight of both my professional and personal life. Sitting here with Professor Thurman, fellow panelists and laureates, it's amazing for me. I grew up in Newark, so I'm extremely passionate about Newark. And I'm not sure if I want to talk to my children, literally my children, my 13 and 12-year-old, or to the children of Newark, which would be you today. But I'm going to try to do both in a very short period of time. As I said, I grew up in Newark. I went through Newark school systems, and I'm no longer living in Newark, unfortunately. I live south of here, but where I live, we do not have city water, and nor do we have a city sewer system. We have a septic tank and well water. So I've become my father. I'm constantly telling the 13-year-old and the 12-year-old to turn off the water and not let it run. And I guess what I'm trying to say here to the group is to be careful with and considerate with nature's natural resources, such as water. That's my message as it relates to water and that resource. In terms of Newark, extremely passionate. I'm so fortunate to work in the city and to work for the organization that I work for. We're privately funded, and it's amazing that I get to play with some money to make Newark better. And we do it we try to do it in a lot of different ways. One of the things that stands out to me here is a lack of pride when it comes to litter and gum and things of that nature. And it's not just in Newark, it's Mother Earth in general. We need to be careful. You know, I myself, well, I didn't put them out myself, but my organization put out 250 trash cans in this city. And I'm appealing to the people that are here in Newark and around the world that we need to be mindful as to what we're doing to Mother Earth, in Mother Earth, and we need to find a can. Gum, you know, my family, I mentioned them earlier, my 13, 12-year-old, my wife, we actually have discussions at the kitchen table as to how we can come up with certain things to offset some of the things we see here in Newark, such as gum everywhere. My son said maybe we should get a gum truck and have the truck drive around and people could just attach, hey, he actually, he has a copyright on that, so don't try it. But you know, these are the discussions we're having in my home in terms of litter and pollution as it relates to Earth. And my message to you is we all live on this planet, and we all have an obligation to take care of it. And I'm glad you're all here. I'm glad you're here in Newark, and I'm hoping you're finding it clean and peaceful. Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony. We're in Newark, and you're taking care of Newark downtown, and it's really very moving to have you with us, because anything affecting the planet affects Newark, because that's where we are.